Facing a crisis in your life or business? Take the helm and steer yourself in the right direction. It's time to take charge and make things happen with your host, Lynn McLaughlin.
Hi, everyone, and it's Wednesday. We're going to be talking about a topic today that we've not yet covered on Taking the Helm. Jude Sandville is the divorce advocate. He's a single parent of 3 daughters, and he is helping men navigate the waters of divorce so that they are well, but that their children are also well taken care of. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Lynn. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So Jude, tell us what you're busy, because I jumped to right away when I hear the word dadvocate. I think, okay, you're helping people through the divorce system. So just to be honest, they get the best, they get the most, but that's not at all what you're about. So talk to us about what does this mean for you?
Right. So I, like you stated, am a single father of 3 daughters, and I have been divorced now for almost 9 years. And what I found in that time frame in going through the divorce was there are not a lot of resources out there for men going through this process, and specifically dads. So it's a little bit different. It's challenging at all going through divorce, which I think we can all agree upon, and it's challenging for everybody. But the resources out there for dads were very, very limited. So that inclined me to get involved in trying to create a community where dads can come to figure out how to create a healthier and less traumatic divorce. And so it can run the gamut from how to go through the process and the legal process to mostly what we work on, and I think a lot of people work on, because it's a time where you're broken open, is the way that I describe it, during a divorce, to work on your mindset and yourself and how to go forward. And the offshoot of that is you're creating a better environment for your children, and it can really be an opportunity to model for them, as well as have a great or more improved life for yourself.
And well, there are lots of reasons. I'm happily married almost 30 years, so I can't speak to personal experiences about divorce, but I can speak a little bit later as a child of a divorced couple, my parents. Mm-hmm. But sometimes reasons for divorce are hateful, they're awful, they're emotionally traumatizing, and people get themselves into a combative state, right?
Yes.
Because of that anger, because of that resentment. How do you take people who are in that state and move them to a place where, it is more looking to the future and taking care of themselves and their children, as opposed to that anger and resentment?
Right. That's a great question. And there is a process that I take them through, and that process is very specific and step by step. And part of that is dealing with those feelings and those emotions, and understanding that they come up, and what the basis of those emotions and feelings are, and then working through those and really understanding then your part of what you've brought into the relationship that has not worked out, because it takes 2 of you. And oftentimes it's adaptive behaviors that we've learned, many of them that we had no idea that we were doing, because we've learned those, perhaps like you mentioned, in childhood, because of whatever challenges that we had to deal with. And because human beings are so amazing and adapt to everything and anything, we make these adaptive changes, but they might not be then serving us in our adult relationships. And then that creates, a bad situation. And then we find the people, right, that help to fit into that bad behavior, that I call it maladaptive behavior, because then it's not an adaptive behavior that's beneficial to us. And then we start this process until we stop and figure it out. And then once we can figure that out, deal with the emotions behind it and the feelings, then you can start to grow and figure out how to have healthier relationships. And that's not just only with maybe your future love relationships, but that could be, once I started doing this work for myself, I started to see, oh my gosh, this is in my business life, this is in my professional life. All these behaviors that I was exhibiting are across the board in life. And then that just gave me an opportunity to really do the self-work and understand how, I can make the necessary changes to go forward. So once you start doing that, and that's why it's been a beautiful thing working with the dads, because they really, during this time, are very open to learning and understanding, because they understand the sense of urgency that they need to have in doing this. Their lives are chaotic, and for us men, the majority of us with our natural masculine tendencies, we don't like chaos, right? We like orderliness and know where we're going and have a vision, a direction. And so gets all turned upside down, as it does for everybody. For men, it's really, really uncomfortable. So many of the dads are really, really interested in understanding and assessing what's going on and going forward in a healthy way.
Yeah. Give me a couple of examples of some most common, I would say, maladaptive behaviors as you describe them.
Okay. So the number one they found, and they studied this, the number one adaptive behavior is over responsibility or under responsibility. And it's kind of a variation of codependency. So somebody might be over responsible in a relationship and they're doing too much, and that creates problems and resentment on both sides, right? It's disempowers the person that you're being over responsible for and doesn't give them the agency to figure out their own lives. And then you're doing too much, or the over responsible person is doing too much and feels like they're the one that's putting too much or more effort into the relationship than the other person. And so the thing about this too is, because we carry this through from our childhood, is even if we find somebody that isn't the polar opposite of us, we often can train that person to be that, right? So the over responsible person, and I speak very clearly from an over responsible person because I was that, and you can, it's just fascinating because you can literally find somebody and then you're just over responsible, and then that person will back off and be less responsible, but you're training them because that feels comfortable for you, right? Because you've had that for so long, it's been wired in our brain. But I always say, at no point in my life did I say, oh man, I would really like to just be codependent and over responsible and give too much and not have anybody give back and be treated really poorly. And I never made that conscious decision, right?
Wow.
And most of us never have made any of these conscious decisions throughout our lives, but we're burdened with these behaviors until we figure them out and we identify them. And then when it's raised to our consciousness, then it's our responsibility whether we want to do something. Then that's the next step, right? Is, do you want to take responsibility? You want to go through it, or do you want to ignore it? Do you want to numb yourself? Do you want to find distractions? And so during this time of divorce, it is a really, really good opportunity. And I teach a class that we go through this. It's 19 different building blocks for going through the divorce process. And it starts, like I said, with understanding those emotions and feelings, because that's the first thing, right? When you start with the divorce, you're losing your love relationship, but not only that, you're losing all kinds of other things. So there's a whole process like denial and grieving and the adaptive behaviors and anger and all kinds of feelings and emotions that you really need to learn to deal with. Some people have those skills, some people don't have those skills. So
by taking people through that process in hopes that the divorce will become an amicable relationship, which is positively going to affect other people, such as children in a family. Because we know that if there's a combative divorce, there's no question about it, it's going to affect the children in many different ways.
Definitely. Well, it's going to affect them regardless, whether it's combative or not. It's a huge change and it's a huge disruption in their lives, but it can be an opportunity. And what you just described is if you can create a situation and an environment where you are able to co-parent well and you have a good way in which to to go through this. And the majority of divorces, I think it's like 95%, something like that, that get settled outside of court and aren't combative. It's a very, very small percentage of the ones, but those are the ones that we hear about the most, and those are the ones that give divorce I mean, it has a bad connotation, but that you hear mostly about. And so it's, like I said earlier, it's an opportunity, and I can decisively say that the opportunity that I was presented through going through this with my daughters was that it, for me, made me hyper sensitive to be present with them in the time that I had. And so that was one example, because early on it tore me up. It tore me up not being with them every day like I had gotten used to, and like I had always planned on wanting with a family. I had never thought that I would not be seeing them half of the time. And so for me, I made the decision early on to be a heart-centered father who was always present. That was my mission statement as a parent. And so, but in order to do that, I really had to learn to upgrade my skills and learn to deal with the stress that's going on as being a single dad, and learn how to be present, learn how to get centered, how to deal with emotions and feelings that come up at inappropriate times, how to handle the kids when they're misbehaving, going to parenting classes and learning a system for figuring that out. So it can be really, that goes back to that really chaotic and difficult, especially for a lot of dads now who are having to do this on their own, whereas they had never, ever learned to do that before. So part of my process in that is helping them go through this and learning what it is that they want, creating the environment that they want and the direction that they want, and then setting the direction, figuring out any skills that they need to figure out in order to go forward, and then mastering the psychology around it. Because I know that on an everyday basis, if I am out of whack, or if I'm low energy, the entire house is, and then the kids are kind of out of it. It all stems from me and being able to lead my house. And that's one of the other things that we work on with the dads, is really being able to lead and set that example. And then we're modeling for our kids all of the time. And that can be a positive thing. And I can say that my relationship with my daughters is so fantastic that I don't know that I would have ever been able to have that deep of a relationship with them had I not gone through this difficult challenge, because it would not have made me reflect as deeply as I did, or be as committed to the work that I needed to do in order to deepen those relationships. So it was a blessing. Okay.
I want to pull in two things. I was a school administrator for many, many years. And what I found very heartbreaking, and you're right, you do think about the worst case scenarios, don't you, when you talk about subjects like this, is when one parent is pitting themselves against the other one. So even though they're not living in the same home, the children are going from one house to the other, and they're just hearing each of their parents badger the other, saying the worst case things about them because of that anger and resentment. And what we're doing in those circumstances is we are emotionally hurting our children. Let's be really clear about that. We are not helping them through, like you said, Jude, a very difficult transitional process, because their whole life is now in turmoil.
Right. We're
actually causing them harm.
Yes, absolutely. We talk about this all the time, which is never, ever badmouth your ex to your children. And the reason being is, no matter what your ex has done or anything about your ex's personality, children identify and take part of who they are from each of the parents. No matter what the parents, anything about the parents, they take part of their identity. So if you are bad-mouthing him, you are essentially bad-mouthing your child and demeaning your child. And and a lot of people don't really recognize and understand that, because it's a psychological thing. But once you do, you need to stop. Hopefully you've never done it, but you need to stop and not do it, because there's absolutely no positive outcome. It's not going to hurt the other person by saying something to your kids. It's only going to hurt your kids. And so if you care about your kids, absolutely do not badmouth the other parent. You just got to figure that out. You got to stay in your own lane. And the advice that I give is create the environment that you want in your house. You can only control one direction, right? Stay in your lane. You can only control what you're doing in the environment that you have. And the children will see and understand and appreciate that if it is positive and if it is healthy. They are way more perceptive than we give them credit for, because they might not understand everything at a conscious level, but they feel probably more than adults do, because they're not closed off. They don't have any of those behaviors or bad behavior, disordered behaviors that we talked about earlier. And so they're very open. So they do feel the difference between good and bad, or a positive or negative environment. So create that environment. And that was a big aha for me, is that no matter what I said, like, you can lecture and you can talk and you can do that, but the best thing I can do is I can model it. And actually the parenting philosophy that I found early on, which was an absolute blessing, was love and logic. And it is all about approaching things with empathy with your children, and then giving choices and allowing them to understand and know that they have choices. And that is absolutely fantastic, because everything is heart-centered, right? With empathy and kindness and caring and compassion and love for your children. And then the second part is that they have choices. They always have the choices. And we know, right, that life is all a series of choices every single day. And that's going to determine where you're going to go and what direction things happen. So
I've never shared this publicly in a forum like this before. But as I said at the very beginning, my parents were divorced. So just a little bit of context here. I'm the oldest of three. And I would say from about the time I was 9, and we're about 6 years apart. So my youngest brother would have been not even in school yet. My father was increasingly absent. He was a lead musician in a band. There was a lot of that going on, whatever the context was, but increasingly absent. And my mother took on the responsibility as a single parent to the point where he was absent, right? Mm-hmm. And whatever those reasons were, there were a lot of things happening that, of course, I wasn't privy to, even as I grew into my teenage years. But I will say this: she never said anything bad about the man who eventually left her and had children with another woman in another relationship. As a matter of fact, she would put the 4 of us in the car and drive over to the border to visit him and his new wife and my half brothers, because he was our father. And regardless of the mistakes he made or the hurt that he caused her, and I'm sure it went both ways, as you said, she put us ahead of all of that. And now my father is 82 years old. I'm going to cry a little bit here. We have the best relationship. And my mom's been gone. She passed away at 62. We have the best relationship with our father now because of what she did. And if she hadn't done that, I'm afraid I wouldn't even know who he was today. So lesson out there for anyone who's listening: putting your children above your own anger and resentment is going to pay off for them in the long run in more ways than you can possibly imagine.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful story. And God bless her, because she really, truly understood that, putting the children in front of your feelings. Now, let's not misunderstand that we're saying that you need to not take care of yourself and not take care of your feelings and not do the self-care that you need or that she needed, but knowing that it's important to develop what she saw as a relationship with your father, because there's going to be greater benefits in the long run, right? So this has turned out to be a greater benefit, and that's a fantastic message that I don't know that anybody, and let alone kids today, are getting, is making that short-term personal sacrifice for a long-term greater positive outcome. So while I'm sure it was painful, this was a beautiful example of being able to do that. And if you can, you're going to, the positive things that she was able to instill in you on that like you may not even realize, or she may not even realize, are absolutely amazing. Whereas it could have gone completely further to the other end of the spectrum, which is creating all kinds of, poor or bad things or resentment and other things to deal with. So that's an absolutely amazing and beautiful. And that makes me so happy to hear stories like that.
I miss her. I still talk to her every day. The most amazing woman in my life and the life of others. Anyway, okay.
That's great.
Jude, let's jump over. You have a podcast on Buzzsprout. Talk to us about that.
Yes, it is the Divorced Advocate, and we talk about issues that are pertinent to divorced or divorcing dads. And the whole philosophy around the community is that we're identifying issues. A lot of them are are mostly specific to dads, and some of the ones that I mentioned earlier. And then we talk about strategies on how to deal with them and overcome them. And we've created a community where we have group meetings. We also have workshops that are free. I teach classes as well, like I said, about the Dad's Divorce Blueprint, which we've got a new one coming up in July 11th. We've got a divorce adjustment scale that people can look at to kind of see where they're at with their emotions and feelings around the divorce, to help them gauge where they need to learn and understand better those maladaptive behaviors and how to deal with some of these feelings so that they can move forward. So slowly but surely we're building this next week. The podcast has its first anniversary. So we did our 52nd episode, which is really great. And we have people listening in from something like 50 plus countries and over 150 some cities now. And I've talked to people in the south of France and in the Philippines and all across the world that are dads that are dealing with the divorce. And there's common themes, and the biggest common theme, Lynn, is my children, and how can I create a healthier and less traumatic divorce and go through this and create my 2.0 life that's going to be even better and bigger for myself, but also be an awesome thing for an awesome life for my children.
My heart is warm. And, I'm glad you said that, because I realize you're in the United States, and really the only thing that would be different would be the laws, the courts, but everything else you're saying is applicable to us globally.
Absolutely. Family and fatherhood and motherhood is universl. And the fathers in all the other countries as well as ours care so much about their children equally. And it's amazing to see and hear all the time. And that's one of the greatest things that I get to see every single day, is all of these fathers that care so much. And unfortunately, I don't know that fathers get enough, I don't want to say praise, but just acknowledgement for the positives that they bring to family and to children. And all the research supports this, but we don't hear about it too often. So another part of what I do is reminding men that they are incredibly important in the lives of their children. So no matter what the challenges or the difficulties or what what the circumstances is, just keep working and making the effort, because no matter what it is, your children are watching, and it makes an impact. Even if it is the smallest little thing at the baby step that you need to start with, start doing it, because it has an enormous impact. And if you can scale that more and more and more, the greater impact you're going to have. And the way that I look at it is, if we keep doing this with all of our children, I'm a child of divorce as well, right? And I was never going to get a divorce, okay, because that's that over-responsible person, right? Love was going to conquer. And so, but again, I carried on the tradition, if you will, for a lack of better phrase, but showing them that there's a better way, and creating that is a huge, huge opportunity that you could not do in any other circumstance or any other way. So that's why, if you could reframe it that way, no matter how challenging it is or how painful it is, because it will be, and we all know that anybody who's listening knows that, who's gone through it, but there is huge opportunity on the back end.
And although, Jude, you are a dadvocate, there are many coaches or resources for women who are also going through divorce. And we say men and women, we're talking about the context of motherhood and fatherhood, whatever that relationship looks like. What we've talked about, many of the strategies or concepts we've talked about today are applicable to anyone in a parenting role. So I appreciate this outlook. You're not only helping men walk through or navigate through the waters of divorce in a much more positive way, you are positively affecting countless children around the world. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Seriously, it's my pleasure. It gives me so much gratification every day to deal with this. And the way that I look at it is I'm not only helping men, but I'm helping women also, because by creating and helping men to be better and understand themselves and not only be better fathers, but have better relationships in general, that's going to create better opportunities in the future. And then again, be that, like I said, that's example to children of what can be a better relationship going forward. And just because I work specifically with men doesn't mean that it diminishes anything that women do or the role of motherhood or anything like that. I just want men to remember and that they are important, and to continue to be good dads and better dads and have the resources to be able to do that. And so, it's all working together. We are all meant to work together and figure this out together. And so we can't just do it one by ourselves or all by ourselves. We need each other. And so that's why if you're working on yourself and everybody who's working on themselves, then that would just increase the level and the beauty and the love that's in the world.
Exceptional closing comments. Jude, if people want to reach out to you, where's the best place to go?
Okay, the best place is thedivorcedadvocate.com. And from there, they can find all of the information from the blog to the podcast to the YouTube channel to any of the workshops that we have going on, or the group meetings, or any of the classes as well. So thedivorcedadvocate.com, or if you just need to talk or you're in dire straits and you just need an ear, just call me at 720-255-1021. That's my cell phone number. And just let's have a conversation, because I know that sometimes it just gets really overwhelming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate what you do, Lynn.
And Jude is one example of our guests on Taking the Helm that are always helping us make positive and conscious choices. Have a healthy and safe day, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. To learn more from people who are steering in the right direction, go to lynnmclaughlin.com and search the archives of every interview, or subscribe to this podcast feed. A new episode is published every Wednesday.